In this video, we're going to clean up our application a little bit. Currently, this search and submit goes to just a dummy implementation page where we hard code and we say if the plant submitted or if the name submitted was redbud, we're going to search. Otherwise, we're going to return no results. That's not going to work for us now because we actually have live data. So let's start by cleaning this up a little bit. First of all, if we take a look at our page, we know that it is taking whatever the user enters into that search screen, and it's putting it into the getName method of plant. More precisely, it's putting it into the name attribute of plant. On the other hand, our search is actually looking at an attribute called common. Okay, we could clean up our search a little bit if we wanted, but what we'll do is I'm going to go to the index page, the page that we are looking at when we go to this page right here, our first page. And I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup here. For the autocomplete, I'm going to change it from plant name to plant common. So kind of like common name. Okay, and then we're going to save. And now I'm going to go back to the search plants class. Now remember what the search plants class is. This is a managed bean that's a UI layer class, and its job is to handle button clicks and other things that are on this page. Okay, so I'm going to Control M so we can see this in high def, and I really don't need any of the guts of this anymore. I do maybe want to remember the search and no results are the navigations that we have to find. But what I'll do is I'm simply going to say, okay, I have a reference to plant service, so I'm going to say plant service, and then we're going to say, well, I want to say fetch plants, but you know what? We don't have a fetch plants method on plant service, so why don't we make one? This is eventually going to get to that DAO that we created in a previous video where we're searching from Hibernate based on a plant's name. So let me go to plant service, and let's see, what do we have here? We have filter plants, that's what we use for our autocomplete. We have save, that's what we use to naturally save a plant. And then we have a getter and setter for our plant DAO. Okay, so let's make a new method then. I'm going to say public, and then we'll say list plant, and then we'll say fetch plants, and then we'll say plant. Okay, now it's important to note here that this plant actually contains our search criteria. That's something that I'll put in the Java doc. Well, why don't we go ahead and do that now? So first of all, why is it redlining? Let's figure that out. Probably it's the return type. Okay, we can handle the return type in just a moment. Let's go ahead and do some javadoc / and say return a list of plants that match the given search criteria. Okay, plant, a parameter that contains the search criteria. Okay, return a list of matching plants. The reason I say that is I want to make clear that this is our search criteria. It's not what's getting returned directly, it's just our search criteria. Okay, now the red line is likely because I have not satisfied my return type, so I don't like having red lines sitting around, so I'm going to go ahead and say list plant. Just a moment as it catches up. List plant, and then we'll say results equals new array list plant. We will probably remove this in a short bit, but I just want to go, I get nervous when I see red lines, so I just want to resolve that situation first. And then we're going to say return results. Whoops. Okay. And our red line goes away. Okay, now let's scroll up a little bit and take a look at what we have injected into this class. We have injected plant DAO. Now remember that one's a little bit tricky because iPlant DAO, if I put my cursor on there, hold Control and press T, we're going to see that iPlant DAO is satisfied by both plant DAO stub and plant HBM DAO. How do we know which one's going to get injected? Well, that's where we take a look at our friend application context, our Spring configuration, And we remember that the first entry here is injecting plant HBM DAO as our plant DAO. And because spring is immutable, and that's the first entry, it means that any future entries or any auto-wired configuration that we get through the component scan, those are not going to apply. The first one always wins. Okay, so back to plant service. What we can do now is honestly pretty straightforward. This is a direct, we're just looking at one DAO. So I'm going to say plant DAO, and then I'm going to call on the fetch plants method that we made just in a couple videos prior, and we unit tested this, so we're confident that it's working properly. So terminate that with a semicolon. Now control 1, and we're going to say assign statement to new local variable, and yeah, we'll just call it plants. That's fine. List plant. Okay. Well, guess what? Now we have a list of plant results. We no longer need our little hack here to get rid of the red line. So I'm simply going to consolidate the method a little bit, and we will return directly that list of plants and save. Okay, so in this case, the business logic layer is just a pass-through. We're getting the plant from the UI layer. We're passing it down to the DAO layer. The DAO layer is giving us a set of results, and we're returning those results. Pretty straightforward to do, and save. Now, let's go back to our UI, our search plants UI class, our managed bean. And one thing we're also going to note here is it is referring to our plant service through its interface. Now, I've just added a method, and that method is not available in the interface. So if I look at iPlant service, I will not see that fetch plants method that I just made. So what I can do instead is I can let Eclipse do the work for me. If I right-click and say refactor and say pull up, that's going to take this method that's selected and it's going to put it in our interface automatically. Okay, and finish. And note it adds the override annotation here. If we take a look now at iPlant service, we should see, sure enough, it has the new fetch plants. I could probably be a good idea to copy over that Javadoc as well. We tend to rely on Javadoc at the method level. We tend to rely on that, put method level Javadoc rather on the interface. Okay, and save. And then save again. Okay, now we can go back to our managed bean. And at this point, we're ready to make this execute method work. What I'm going to do is say plant service, and then we're going to call that new method, fetch plants. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and pass in the plant, this guy here, that's been automatically wired into our class. Looks good. And terminate with a semicolon. Okay, remember that the fetch plants method returns a collection of plants, so I'm going to say control 1, and we're going to assign that. Let's assign it to a new field, and we'll just call it, again, we'll call it plants. Yep, that looks good. Okay, and save. Now while this happens, I'm going to control 1 and create a getter and setter for this new field. This is the collection of plants that gets returned. So create the getter and setter. We might want to use that later. Okay. And now I can make this a bit more efficient. I can say if, we'll clean up our test here. I'm going to say if plants dot size greater than 0, that means we got results. We'll go ahead and return search, although we ought to make that something more meaningful like results. Results will be more explicit. On the other hand, if the size of the plants returned is not greater than 0, it must be 0, and therefore we've received no results. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to snap a breakpoint, and let's walk through it one step at a time and see how it goes. So Control M, and I'll build and redeploy. I'll pause the video while I do that, and then we will take a look at the results. We'll take a look at the debug results as soon as that's finished. Just a moment. The application has deployed now. What I'm going to do is, one caution on my query, I did an equals, not a like. We're going to want to fix that. We're going to want to use a like. But in the meantime, What that means is I have to type in the entire common name. So let me grab here Autumn Blaze Maple, and I'm going to paste that into our search, and I'm going to hit submit. And let's watch what happens in the debugger now. Okay, so in the debugger, this is the managed bean that is in the UI layer. Notice that the line that's currently highlighted is the plant service or the business logic layer. I choose F5 to step into. That's going to call down to the DAO. This is the line that we just wrote. I choose F5 to step into that. F6, run the query where the common name equals the common, and remember we're going to change that in a moment to make it a like, but let's go ahead and use it as it is now. And let's see what results we got. I mouse over plants and we see sure enough it pulled up Acer rubrum Autumn Blaze Maple, Autumn Blaze Maple. And so I'm going to choose F6 and I'm going to take us all the way back to that UI class. And because it got a result, it's going to return search. Now what does that mean, return search? We did this part a while ago, but let's just remember what it is. If we look at faces config, we're going to see that we have our navigation information in this file. We're saying when we come from index.html, if we get the from outcome search, in other words, if we return that keyword search, we're going to go to results XHTML. On the other hand, if we get no results, we're going to go to no results.xhtml. So this word that we're returning is defining our navigation, where we're going to go next, and it's using the faces config XML to determine what this word search is going to be equivalent to for a URL that we want to go to, if that makes sense. So in other words, by saying search, we're saying we want to go to results.html. If we said no results, we'd go to no results.xhtml. Okay, let's continue then. I'm simply going to choose play. I'm going to return back, and you see this actually is that results page. We see plant results 4. A bit more work to do here, and this is where our prime faces data table is going to come in just a moment, but we see at least the navigation is working. Let me step back, and let me now enter something that is definitely not going to have results. I'll choose submit. Let's watch this happen one more time in the debugger. So search plants.execute. Okay, step in. Okay, step in again. And we're not expecting any results. It won't give us an error, it's just going to give us an empty list. Okay, so I look at my list, and we see the 2 square brackets right here indicate that it's empty, that no results were found. Okay, we go to the no results execution. I'm going to go ahead and let it resume, and we see here we get to a no results found page. So we can pretty that up a little bit, but before I forget, let's go ahead and change our Hibernate query to a like instead of an equals, because a user isn't going to know the entire list of things that we want to, a user's not going to know the full name of a plant. A user might just know maple, might not know Autumn Blaze Maple or red maple, sugar maple, any of those. So let's let the user type in only part of the word, not the whole word. I'm here in my DAO layer. This is our HQL query. I'm going to change equals to like, and in this case I don't want to use the query set properties, which is going to automatically wire up the getters and setters from here to the parameters we've defined here. What we need to do is we need to include the wildcard character. So not so easy to do when we're doing this set properties automatic marry up stuff. Instead, let's go back to the set parameter where we are explicitly saying what we want to have fill in this parameter. Now with SQL, typically the % symbol indicates a wildcard. The % symbol and the like statement go hand in hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say whatever the user's search term is, which we have here in plant.getCommon, I'm going to put a wildcard before and after. So it's simply a matter of double quote, % symbol, double quote, plus, and then on the other side, the same thing. Plus, double quote, % symbol, double quote again, and save. Okay, now if we type in the word red, we should get all red buds. We shouldn't have to type in the entire word red bud. We can just type in part of the word. So our unit test passed, which is good. I'm going to go ahead, stop. I'm going to rebuild and republish, and we'll take a look once that's finished. And now the application has been rebuilt and redeployed. Let me go ahead and type in the word red and hit submit. And we see that Eclipse is coming up in orange. So we will step in again from the UI layer now into the business layer, from the business layer to the persistence layer. Now let's take a look at our like clause. This should return every plant that has the word red in it. So when I take a look, sure enough, we get 10 results, and I can kind of scroll over here. We see several red buds, which is not a big surprise. I keep going to the right. Cercis chinensis, the Chinese red bud. But take a look at this. We also have red oak. So in this case, doing this wildcard search with a like allows us to search across all of those columns. So I'll keep going. And we know nothing's going to come up just yet. It's just going to redirect to our results page. But this puts us in a good place where we can implement now our data table. And we'll take a look at that in our next video. I look forward to seeing you then.